welcome to today's webinar on exploring your career in Canada. If you are not familiar with World Education Services, it is an organization that provides credential evaluation for individuals who have international education. Global Talent Bridge is an initiative of World Education Services that is dedicated to helping skilled immigrants fully utilize their skills, talents, and education in Canada and the United States. We join with institutional partners and community-based organizations to help skilled immigrants leverage their training to achieve their career and professional goals. This webinar is one of many sessions we do to provide information and resources to internationally trained professionals such as yourself. You can also visit our website at west.org/ca/subscribe to receive insider information on job search advice, invitation to webinars and networking events, and of course our monthly e-newsletters with tips to help you thrive in Canada and meet your career goals. You can also view our previous webinars online, which include launching your job search in Canada, professional networking for skilled immigrants, and lots more. And you can also follow us on Twitter at West Canada. My name is Jody Tingling, and I am the Program Manager of Global Talent Bridge. We also have Sarah Hua, who is the Global Talent Bridge Coordinator. This webinar will be presented by West Global Talent Bridge in partnership with JVS and Access Employment. This interactive webinar will review the challenges that newly arrived job seekers face and provide guidance on ways you can build your career in Canada. We have an interactive and engaging webinar for you today that will help you to understand the steps that you need to take to be successful in your job search process, how to overcome the barriers you might experience, and finally, success factors to help you navigate your career. So for today's session, we have Joanna Samuels, who over the past 10 years has been providing customized employment and career support services, including job development and job coaching, and two diverse individuals and groups at JVS Toronto, including newcomers to Canada, internationally trained professionals, people with disabilities and multiple barriers, new and recent grads, youth, and mature workers. Joanna also helps employers with recruitment, selection, and diversity. She has a Bachelor of Education in Adult Education, a Master of Education, and is a Certified Personalities Dimensions Facilitator and Certified Life Skills Coach. Her other designations include Career Management Fellow, Certified Training and Development Professional, and a Registered Rehabilitation Professional. Joanna also writes a weekly employment advice column at Career Voice, which can be found on the JVS Toronto website, and has also published articles in peer-reviewed journals and local newspapers. In addition, Joanna teaches employment counseling at George Brown College. Thank you for joining us today, Joanna.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And we also have Deirdre Millen, an employment consultant with Canadian Employment Connection program at Access Employment, a high-energy employment and branding professional. She draws from years of marketing experience working in the corporate world to bring current job search and career exploration tools to clients. Facilitation is a strength and passion of hers, and she is also keenly adept at working one-on-one with clients to determine their personal brand. Glad to have you here, Deirdre.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. For today's agenda, we will be asking you to participate in an interactive poll to get your thoughts on what you need to do to explore your career in Canada. Joanna will talk about the strategies you can take to have career success in Canada. Then Deirdre will discuss the barriers and challenges in navigating your career in Canada and how to overcome these challenges. I will then talk about the success factors to help you navigate your career. After that, we will have a panelist discussion to review the poll results and have a discussion based on the poll results. Lastly, we will answer questions at the end of the question and answer period. After this session, we will demonstrate an understanding of the steps and processes to have career success in Canada. You will also be able to identify strategies to overcome the barriers and challenges in exploring your career in Canada. You'll also be able to engage in activities to help you explore your career in Canada. Now, we would like to poll you, our audience, on 3 questions. You will find the poll on the right-hand side of your screen and can simply select one answer for each question. We will close the poll in about 40 minutes, so make sure you submit your response for each question. At the end of the webinar, we will review the responses and engage in a discussion. The first poll question is, what do you think is most important to start your career in Canada? Is it A, good networks, B, English or French language proficiency, C, accessing programs and services that help to reflect the needs of Canadian employers, or D, all of the above? Second poll question is, how long do you think it takes to get into your career of choice in Canada? Is it A, less than a year, or B, more than a year? And your third poll question is, what are the main qualities Canadian employers value? Is it A, English or French language proficiency, B, soft skills, C, sector-specific skills, or D, all of the above? As a reminder, these poll questions will be on for about 40 minutes and then we will close it towards the end, so make sure you get your submissions in. Accessing services, career planning, personal branding and marketing, and employer expectations are important elements to consider when pursuing a career in Canada. Accessing services and career planning is crucial to exploring your career. As a newcomer, knowing what services to access will make the difference between creating new opportunities and becoming stuck in your career. Accessing services that will help you conduct self-assessments to determine your strengths, transferable skills, and potential career to pursue in Canada, along with career planning to understand the labor market, how long it will take to get into your career, and what the process might involve. For example, if you want to get into a licensed career in Canada, accessing a service will help you determine how long it will take, the steps that need to be taken, and how to start the process. Additionally, accessing services that help you with your language skills, joining programs that offer volunteering, internships, or bridging programs will help you with sector-specific education and training, accessing employment services such as JVS Toronto and Access Employment to help you brand and market yourself more effectively with employers, and finally, services that offer mentorship, advice, and guidance can really make a difference in finding employment in Canada. These must all be considered when exploring your career. To engage in marketing yourself effectively to your networks and employers, you must use marketing tools such as resumes and cover letters to promote your skills, abilities, and qualifications. Also, understanding how to conduct an effective interview where Canadian employers would want to hire you. Networking is another tool that should be used to market yourself. This is essentially connecting with others to help you with leads, referrals, or employment opportunities. You should also have an elevator pitch, which is a 30-second statement about yourself that will help new people you meet to understand your background, your skills, and qualifications, an important marketing tool to have while networking. And finally, make sure you are networking on social media. Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn are all social media tools that, when used effectively, can help you gain new leads, contacts, and tips in your career search. Understanding employer expectations is also important to move ahead with your career in Canada. Communication skills are essential not only for landing the job, but also understanding how to communicate in the workplace is an expectation of employers. So making sure that you do have English or French language proficiency to communicate with others effectively so that people understand you and you understand them. This is important to carry out tasks in the workplace or even answer interview questions. Also, understanding soft skills is an important example for how you present yourself in front of others. Resolving conflict with a team member, working independently while contributing to the team, and of course, articulating your opinion and ideas to your boss. Workplace communication, being able to understand and abide by communication strategies in the workplace, for example, having proper email etiquette, understanding nonverbal cues, maintaining eye contact, and even smiling can be viewed as positive communication strategies in the workplace. Canadian experience. What this really means is knowing and understanding the soft skills needed to be successful in the Canadian workplace. Skills such as fitting in with the team, being able to effectively resolve conflict, having a positive attitude, being adaptable and flexible to work requests, and taking on additional responsibilities. These are all necessary skills to function in the Canadian workplace, and employers are more likely to hire candidates who come equipped with these skills. And finally, technical skills. Coming prepared to articulate your technical skills in the field, understanding your strengths and how this can help you in your career in Canada. All right, so now Joanna from JBS Toronto will be speaking about the strategies to enhance career success in relation to accessing services and career planning. Over to you, Joanna.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So I'm going to show you some slides based on my 10 years of experience working with the employers and working with the job seekers. That's my area, especially with internationally trained professionals and newcomers. So I've compiled all of the information and I'm presenting it in the following actions that I'm going to proceed when I click this right button, right? That's right. Anyway, so the first step, and I do not want to overwhelm you, and by the way, all these actions that I'm presenting to you, it's not in order. It's whatever's going to work for you and what you're comfortable with. And it's basically a learning process here, and it takes time. So research. For example, it could be as simple as learning what's going on in your field, in your profession here in Canada, based on just do a Google research. Google, let's say you have SAP. So you Google jobs, SAP, Toronto. Jobs, QuickBooks, Toronto. And you can see who's hiring, what are they looking for, what's the language that they use. That's just an example. Moving on. Lots of research. You really need to do some serious soul searching into what does your profession, what does your career, what does your industry look like in Canada. And of course, you need to know who are the leaders in your field here, who's making the decisions. And again, more research techniques. You can do it overseas with Skype. You could do it here and when you come over to Toronto or Canada. These are just some of the techniques. The mentor, you get a mentor as a newcomer, information interviews. Create company Google alerts. Look for the companies that would be very interested in your skills. And then follow them on social media and create Google alerts too. You also need to be current in your field too. Next, again, action, not necessarily in order. Understand your strengths, your qualifications, and your experiences, and how to articulate it in a clear, concise way as well. And you also need to see, what are you missing? What do you need? What do you need to learn? Do you need to go to West to get your credentials evaluated? You have to decide what's your next steps, either overseas or here. More ideas about your preparation and your assessments. Again, more research questions, and you can review it on your own time. If you have any questions, absolutely ask me on here, and also you can reach me at JBS Toronto. More research questions, and this is only 10% of the questions that you can ask. There's tons of questions, researching questions and questions. You need to learn as much as possible about the game here. Social media. Hopefully, even in this webinar, engage in social media. You can use Twitter. I use Twitter. I use LinkedIn. Connect with people. Follow people. Build your professional network. And again, the actions are not in order. It's a process because you may find some very interesting information on LinkedIn about a company and completely changes your idea about how you're going to fit into the labor market here. So you need to learn that. Next, create a plan. You can create a plan based on the slides that we talked about just now and all the actions. And again, it's a process. By the way, when you look at your research and you get overwhelmed, you don't have to do any of this alone, by the way. I'm going to go to my almost last slide. So while you are in your home country, getting ready to come here, we have a program called Can Prep. There's a website at our agency, and it's a new program. We used to run it before. Very successful program. Your pre-arrival services. If you note on the slide, you can have access to all of those services as well. And last time we ran this program for people getting ready to come to Canada, 80% success rate. And the new immigrants that came over that had been part of that pre-arrival program, employment support program, 80% found work in their field within the first 6 months. So very successful. We have the program again from the government. The next. This is, again, here's the website if you want more details. And you really do not have to do any of this alone. I'm throwing all this information. I hope you're not overwhelmed, one step at a time. I can only tell you from my work with the employers and the job seekers that this has a very helpful program. And then when you come into Canada, again, do not do it alone. There are tons of amazing programs. We've got stuff for newcomers, mentoring, job search workshops, language communication, employment program, occupational specific. There's lots and lots to help you out, not to do it ever alone. We have the bridging program as well, and of course the one-on-one. So here's the summary. I'm going to wrap up my last comment. Let me tell you something about a recent job seeker that I worked with, brand new to Canada, an architect, internationally trained architect. This is a true story. He came into Canada with a family. He had to work. He had to work. So he found a survival job. He was a general laborer. However, while he was working and making money, we worked together with the newcomer programs to help him with learning the language and the communication for the architecture sector, and we do this with banking and finance. While he was working, so he came in the evening, we helped him with his resume, myself and the employment counselors, and sent him job leads. He came to all of my employer events, sector specific, for architects, IT, banking, finance, business, whatever. The sky's the limit. And guess what happened? So he got interviews. I coached him on the interview, and eventually, and it took time, I'd say it took about 7 months, he found employment as an architectural technologist at a local architecture firm, and he was able to quit his survival job, which also helped him, by the way, in learning a little bit about the Canadian workplace. His language improved, he got connections, even from the survival job, so you never know. But in the end, he was able to get the support and the coaching, and eventually he found work 3 months ago in his field as an architectural technologist using his AutoCAD, his computer skills. So that is only one of many, many examples of the job seekers that we've helped that have prepared overseas as well as prepared here when they get to Canada, and that's one of the many success stories. Any questions on here? Let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanna. So to sum up, you just spoke about research, self-assessment, social media, personal action plan, and free post-arrival services. That will be helpful as the next steps that individuals can take to navigate their career in Canada. And now, Deirdre will be speaking about the barriers and challenges in navigating your career in Canada that ties into personal branding and marketing. I'll give that to you, Deirdre.
Okay, thanks so much, Jody. And thank you so much for having us here. It's really great to have an opportunity to speak to your clients. So my name is Deirdre. I work at Access Employment. I've been an employment consultant for the last 2.5 years, and I've been very fortunate to work at Access Employment, which is an agency that specializes in helping newcomers like yourselves out there. So this is a great fit, and I welcome this opportunity to talk about some of the typical barriers that people face when they are coming to Canada. So barrier number one is limited English language. So Obviously, employers are looking for people who are comfortable speaking the English language. We're a little Toronto-centric here, aren't we? Because we're talking about English, but if you're coming to Quebec, then presumably instead of English, substitute the word French. But language proficiency is essential. It is a must-have. And you need to know the nuances of Canadian business communication. And that's kind of a fancy word. What does nuance really mean, right? Well, it's knowing what to say when. And that's a piece that you only get through, in my opinion, language training and experience working and talking with people in English. It's all part of that soft skills, and those are the keys to success moving forward. So there are lots of great resources for you to tap into here. So there really should not be any issue with anybody finding English language training. One of the services that we offer at Access Employment is Talk English Cafe. I understand there's going to be a selection of links at the end of the presentation. So anything that we talk about, you hear us talking about, there's going to be a link for you to click onto later, and you're going to have access to this PowerPoint as well. So you don't have to write things down furiously or anything like that. So Talk English Cafe is an online service as well as an in-house service that we have here. There's also, of course, longer-term language programs. There's things like Language for Workplace Connections. The YMCA offers language training. The Toronto District School Board offers language training. No end of resources for language training. And I would encourage you to start taking advantage of the language training as soon as you arrive, if not beforehand, because once your status changes, it becomes more difficult to access free English language training services. I've had clients who come to me and it's 10 years later and they still want language training, and at that point it's a little bit tricky to serve them, right? So make sure you take care of it as soon as you get here. Okay, second barrier. We're looking at, and clients tell us this all the time, they told me I didn't have any Canadian work experience. When employers are saying that, and Joanna, you can tell me if you find this is the case too, is that employers want people who can contribute immediately. They're looking for, we have an expression in English called land running. In other words, as soon as you start working, you're producing and you're a functioning member of the team. Mm-hmm. And a lot of employers feel that Canadian experience provides this. So your job when you're applying for positions is to emphasize your transferable skills. Show them that you have the ability to, quote unquote, land running. You can start doing the job tomorrow. You don't need a lot of training. You don't need a lot of hand-holding. You're able to do the job as you are right now. So please emphasize your transferable skills. A great way to build your confidence and prove that you've got what it takes is to volunteer. Lots of great volunteering opportunities are available. There's a great resource here in Toronto called Volunteer Toronto, which is a searchable database that you can look for an opportunity. The other thing that you should be doing is informational interviews. So that's talking to people in your field who know about the Canadian workplace. And that way you get to learn the Canadian context and the best way to present your experience. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in another slide, but informational interviews is talking to people who already are working in the field. And it doesn't have to be face-to-face. It can be done by email, video call, phone, good old-fashioned telephone. The other thing that you might want to look at when you're doing your resume, I've seen this on a couple of resumes, and I think it's a great thing to bear in mind, is if you've had your credentials assessed by an organization like WES, put that on your resume. Let the employer know that your Bachelor of Arts from your university back home equals the same thing as a BA here in Canada. And say, you know, my credentials have been assessed by WES, and this is the equivalent of a master's, a BA, whatever it is that you've got, right? So that the employer can go, oh, okay, I get it. Another little little trick that I've seen on a resume is the client has put a little description of the organization or the employer where he's worked. So he says, you know, I've worked at XYZ Bank in Pakistan, and a little description. XYZ Bank in Pakistan is the third largest bank in Pakistan and traded on the stock exchange under the following moniker. That's a great way. You want to make it as simple as possible for the employer to instantly get what you're all about. All right, and next barrier is not being able to navigate the Canadian job market, not knowing who can help you get where you need to go. So one thing that you need to be aware of, and I tell every client that I see coming through our doors the same thing, only 20% of the jobs that are available are actually advertised externally. That means 80% of the jobs are the quote-unquote hidden job market. And these are jobs that are never written down on a piece of paper, never put on a web page, never make it to Workopolis or any of the work websites. And the way you access those jobs is by expanding your network and doing the informational interviews. And of course, whenever you're talking to somebody who works in your field, you're asking at the end of your conversation, geez, thank you so very much for helping me today. Who else do you think I should be talking to? Who else do you think is a real expert in the field? And can I use your name to get in touch with them? Make sure you take advantage of the community resources. So once you arrive, you're going to be part of a home community. And so talk to everybody. Talk to people where you get your hair cut, where you take your car to be served. My hairdresser knows everybody. I don't know about you guys, but she knows everybody. She's got a stack of business cards like this, and if I need any kind of referral, she always has it. Talk to the people that you're engaging with. When you go to church, when you go to synagogue, when you go to temple or mosque, talk to the people there. Find out what's going on in the community. And of course, research the local job market in advance. There's a great website that's put out by the Canadian government called Working in Canada that provides job statistics, typical salaries right across the country. All you have to do is type in where you're going to be landing and it'll show you what the market is like in your area. There's also here in Toronto an organization called Toronto Workforce Innovation Group, or TWIG, and they have great labor market information as well. Our barrier 4 is lack of network in Canada and how to start to get a network. Now, networking is a concept that might not be familiar to you, but what networking is meeting people with similar professional interests and connections. It's a two-way process. It's something that's mutually beneficial, right? You're providing them with information and they're providing you with information. And this is the way people find work in Canada. A referral to a job through networking generates 80% more results than a cold call. And a cold call is when you're just calling a stranger or walking into a place and saying, hey, will you hire me? In other words, job leads you access through your network are more effective than job leads you access through any other means. And this is how we find work in Canada. A great resource that I want to make you aware of is something called 10,000 Coffees. It's a database of people who are willing to talk to you about their field of expertise. And you can do face-to-face interviews with those people. You can have a phone call with those people. You can swap emails with those people. It's North American-wide, and take a look at it. It's fantastic. There's also, of course, you're going to be looking those people up on LinkedIn. Joanna talked a little bit about the importance of social media. So did Jody. LinkedIn is a fantastic way to find out about somebody before you meet with them, so that once you're sitting down or on the phone with them, you're having a real in-depth conversation. Join associations to help you meet people in your field. And then, of course, a lot of organizations offer mentoring and speed mentoring. I know The agencies like JVS has it, Access has it. This is an opportunity for you to meet people again in your field, whether it's banking or engineering or information technology or human resources. So definitely, and again, research those. Again, echoing Joanna, research, research, research. Research the organizations before you come. And then lastly, we want to touch on this because this is an important piece. You need to understand what licensing you might require when you arrive. And because sometimes we see clients who arrive and they assume that their credentials to be an engineer back home will be accepted here in Canada. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. You need to make sure that any licensing is looked at. So, and not only across Canada, but unfortunately within each province, the rules can change quite a bit. So you need to make sure that you're looking where you're going to be landing and what the licensing requirements are. There's a number of regulated professions. Research the licensing processes, look up the governing bodies, and we recommend you research well in advance of your arrival. And I think that's it for barriers. And I'll hand it back over to Jody.
All right. Thank you, Deirdre, for overcoming those barriers by taking the steps you mentioned are required to progress to the next step of your career journey. So now in this segment, I will be speaking about success factors that help immigrants navigate their career, which ties into employer expectations. I will be discussing research prepared for WES conducted by Johnson and Boomal 2015, where they conducted focus groups with immigrants to assess the drivers of workforce integration in Canada and the United States. So newcomers were asked, given everything you have experienced as a newcomer, which one factor would have made the most difference in trying to use your international education, experience, and skills to pursue opportunities? Canadian immigrants rated having local job experience as number one, followed by having local education, then better networking skills. These skills in particular was of most value to newcomers. However, the other factors were also of importance, including having better English and soft skills to communicate in the workplace and even technical expertise in the field. This chart shows immigrants who access services such as volunteer opportunities, job preparation agencies, networking opportunities, ESL courses, internships, mentorships, community colleges, and bridging programs found these services to be very helpful or somewhat helpful. It's also important to point out that accessing a combination of these services will help you in navigating your career and will provide you with the tools you need to succeed in Canada. So to sum it up, the enablers and services that make a positive difference when trying to get into your career are enhanced language, culture, and communication training specific to the North American workplace, profession-specific bridging programs for regulated professions, opportunities to develop professional networks, and opportunities to gain local experience, including through internships and volunteer opportunities, early access to career coaches and mentors, and services aimed at helping individuals brand and market themselves by preparing a North American-style resume and develop appropriate interviewing skills. So employers expect for you to come equipped with these experiences, tools, and skills in order to succeed in the workplace. Okay, so now we're going to engage in a panel discussion. Now that we have presented all of that information, so I want to engage your thoughts, Joanna and Deirdre, on what immigrants can really do to enhance their career success in Canada. So, Joanna, what do you think is the most important step that immigrants should take to enhance their career in Canada?
While they're at home, in their home country, waiting to come to Canada.
While in Canada.
Oh, while in Canada. All right. As I mentioned before, numero uno, do not do this alone. Connect with a service, an employment support services. If you can find a program that is specific. It's called Occupational Specific. Beautiful, and if you're eligible, get into a link class, get your credentials, what's it called? Assessed. Yes. Sorry, I lost my noun. And I think that go and meet as many people as you can, like the hairdresser, great idea, because it's going to be your opportunity not only to learn about your profession, but learn about the labor market. Who's hiring? What are they hiring? Don't stay at home and spend all of your day on the internet. Big mistake. A lot of people come here and all day long. Get out there. I like the coffee, meetup. There's lots of opportunities like that. Just go and meet people. Meet people. If you can connect with people on LinkedIn, beautiful. LinkedIn is free. Use it. All of the Twitter, as long as it's all free, go for it. Use it. But don't stay at home. Get out there. That's my, and of course, I refer back to the slides. I don't want to bore you. Do the research and connect with the employment agencies and start figuring the game. It's a game. Everybody has to learn it. You have to learn it. I have to learn it, and I'm from Toronto, so can you imagine? If I'm from Toronto, I have to learn it. You even more so have to learn it than me. And, of course, language, communication, become very fluent, be comfortable. But the more people you meet, the more confidence you will get. And the more you will see, I am not alone in this. There's so many people in my boat. Okay, that's my free advice. That's what I suggest.
All right. And Deidre, any other additional thoughts?
Just start early. Start early. Start before you come. Start as soon as you come. Just and be targeted. That's another thing I would say. Know specifically what you're trying to go for. And if you don't know, that's fine. Do some self-assessment. Figure out where it is you do want to go. If you need to take that time to figure it out, do it before you start doing a lot of legwork. And sometimes people take the opportunity to change careers when they come. Yeah, I had a client, she started out as her background was as a doctor, and now she's looking to shift to optician. She's taking advantage of this time to shift and redirect. And that's definitely a possibility. But make sure you're targeted, research the employers, and prepare for typical interview questions.
Yeah, all right. Sounds like valuable information. And Deidre, immigrants face many barriers, so you mentioned a lot of them throughout this presentation today, once they get to Canada. So how can they start the process of tackling some of these barriers?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but really it's just targeting and researching the employers. And I think one of the things that people aren't aware of is that the job titles are different here.
Right.
Yeah. So don't just go for the title. When you're doing your research, when you're looking online and you're looking at the job postings, look at the tasks that come with that job, not just the title, because and in fact we had a little discussion earlier where we were talking about different job titles, and even within the field, right, the names can be completely different. Yeah. So make sure you do that, I hate to say it, but the harder work of drilling down and really looking through the job postings to see if that's exactly what you're qualified for. So, and then, because once you know that you can really do that job, you can then present yourself to the employer as someone who's capable, and that helps you get over the barrier.
All right. And anything to add, Joanna?
Again, while you're over in your home country waiting to come, can prep. You saw the link to that. That's an idea. And then, of course, you can, while you're waiting to come here, again, meet as many people, talk to as many people, use Skype, use WhatsApp, whatever you can to start communicating online with people that are professionals in your field before you come here, because it's nice and you can meet them, take them for a cup of coffee when you come into Toronto or wherever you're going. Doesn't hurt. It's also, I mean, we do that here, right? You go for a cup of coffee. It's casual, but not really.
All right. And Joanna, you mentioned a little bit about this in your presentation, but what advice would you give to a skilled immigrant just before they come to Canada as well as just upon arrival to start the process of navigating their career in Canada?
Okay, so me personally, why don't you just research the job descriptions? Just pull up a job description in your field. I don't know, type in your job title. I saw there was a question from a mechanical engineer. Mechanical engineer in a manufacturing environment. So just type in mechanical engineer jobs Regina, wherever you're going to go. And just look. Analyze the job descriptions. And that should give you a little bit of an idea to get the ball rolling on the labor market. And again, who's hiring. And then you may want to take that job description, research it, and that might lead you to learn about other kinds of job opportunities within that company that's hiring. So research the company. You can just start off with that. Or, as I mentioned, Google your technical skills. So if you're that mechanical engineer, I saw you come up on the screen, do you have CAD? Do you have Visio? Do you have MS Project? Google jobs, MS Project, and the city, Vancouver, where you want to go. Another way, you don't even have to be here for that. And then connect with Canada Prep, as I mentioned, get a mentor, get the one-on-one, it's all online. That's what I would do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
And you know, when you come here, there's a lot of newcomer programs, like we have one, where there's internships in your field. And me personally, I get the internships. I have to get internships, and I look for internships, unpaid, that lead to paid employment. That's critical, and it's very, very helpful. And another thing about the Canadian experience, sometimes I work with job seekers who are new to Canada. They went on an interview, and the employer said to one of my IT people, "You have too much Canadian experience." There's always going to be something, always. Now, you have a lot of control before you come here and when you come here to make sure that you package yourself, or we call it branding. It's a whole complicated thing. We'll teach you that when you get here. And then you can be able to present yourself for an interview. I think that's really critical also.
Yeah, I think that's definitely great advice that our audience can definitely take away from that in terms of whether they are either still overseas or they're within Canada. They can use that same advice. Right? So now we're going to move on to our poll discussion. So for those of you who haven't had a chance to respond, please do so now. We will be closing the poll questions in a couple of seconds. So please submit it if you haven't already done so. Okay, and so we have the poll results in. So let's take a look at these results and compare it to the answers. Okay, and you should be able now to see the poll results on the right-hand side of your screen. It should have all of the results there. Okay, so for the first question, take a look at that again. So the first question asks, what do you think is most important to start your career in Canada? And your response was D, all of the above, and you are actually in fact correct. Yay! So according to a report funded by the Ontario government and the Maytree Foundation on perceptions of employment barriers and solutions, employers' top recruitment method is through their networks or through word of mouth, then by online recruitment sources, job fairs, and immigrant survey organizations. English language proficiency was also cited as an important skill required for employment. And in addition to that, newcomers have challenges with finding employment in their field, but when they access services that help them reflect the needs of employers, they do have better employment outcomes. All right, and let's go on to the second poll question. So we asked you, how long do you think it takes to get into your career of choice? And You guys answered A, less than a year, and the answer is, it depends. So that was a bit of a hard question for you guys. We have to throw one in there. So job search does take time. It takes time to understand the skill sets you come with, as well as the Canadian labor market. So it also takes time to really prepare your marketing tools and establish your networks here in Canada. So according to the Council of Ontario Universities, it actually takes new graduates approximately 6 months to get into a related career field after graduation. For a newcomer, it takes roughly the same amount of time. So there is a caveat to this, however. If the newcomer is pursuing a licensed field in Canada, it may take longer than that. So for example, to become an engineer, it might take over a year. So that's important to keep in mind, that it really depends on yourself, it depends on the career stream, and it depends on really a bunch of different factors. And now for the last poll question. So we asked, what are the main qualities Canadian employers value? And so you guys had the result of D, all of the above, and that was correct. Woohoo! Good job, guys. All right, so according to the same report funded by the Ontario government and the Métis Foundation, employers rank having language and communication skills as the #1 barriers immigrants face. Knowledge of workforce-specific language skills was also cited as a barrier. Also highlighted was limited work experience and lack of networks. These are skills that are important to gain employment opportunities according to employers, and should be the skills that newcomers essentially focus on in order to be competitive with the other job applicants. All right, so I just wanted to have a bit of a poll discussion with you guys. So for the question, what do you think is the most important to really start your career in Canada? So why do you think the immigrant audience chose? So basically their result was all of the above. So having good networks, English or French language proficiency, or accessing programs and services that help them to reflect the needs of employers. Why do you think our audience chose that response?
Sounds like they did a lot of research already. Sounds like they already have a plan. Sounds like they're already engaged in social media. It sounds like a very highly educated and accomplished professionals that are waiting to come to me. You don't need me. You're good. You guys can do it on your own. You're good.
All right. And we also asked the question, how long do you think it takes to get into your career choice in Canada? So how do you think the expectation of the length of time taken to get into a career choice in Canada really affects skilled immigrants? I'll throw that to you, Deidre.
Yeah, what's really important is that they do the research and find out what's realistic for their sector. Somebody who's got a background in IT is going to more than likely land a position sooner than someone who's looking for a position in, say, education. They're two different sectors, two different fields, and they need to do their research, and they need to sort of have a realistic expectation. And if it's going to take them a year to find work in education, which is likely, then they need to have a backup plan or rely on a spouse to support them while they're going through that process of looking. Because what you don't want to do is lose heart, right? You don't want to lose heart, and that's the most important thing. And so you got to set the bar where it's realistic and go for it. I had a client, a lady, she came. Took her a year to get, she wanted to work in education. She did a lot of research, discovered there was a need for English language instructors, went and got her teaching English as a second language, volunteered at the Y, doing intake, volunteered at a conference on teaching English as a second language, networked, and within a year she was working at a private college teaching.
Wow,
right? So it can happen, even in a really tight field like education.
Yeah. All right. And lastly, the question, what are the main qualities that Canadian employers value? Why do you think employers value these particular qualities? So just a reminder, the qualities were English language proficiency, Canadian experience, soft skills, and sector-specific skills. And why is it important that immigrants really reflect these qualities that employers are seeking?
So from my experience working with the employers, and Deidre touched on that, there's no training on the job anymore.
Yeah,
from my experience and working, I'm telling you, if you think you're going to get a job and you're going to be trained, not going to happen. It's about money. An employer wants to hire somebody, an employee, that's going to help them with their business. So there's no training, none. You need to hit the ground running, that's the expression, most of the employers. I mean, if you find an internship through a program, that's great. Then great, good on you. As I mentioned in our language and communication program, and I know Access has it too, great. Then there is some training because it's been prearranged. But on your own, you really have to have an interview, and you've got to prove yourself to the employers that you know it, you get it, you know their industry, you know their business. Even if you've never worked in Canada a day in your life, you can learn all of that. Look, I know that everybody that's listening, the 281 people that are listening in right now, everybody has a minimum of a bachelor's for sure. Or from a college. So you have to learn a big percentage on your own. It's called self-directed.
And so they have the research skills.
You've got it already. Just switch the topic. Just change it. But I mean, that's really the employer. It's an employer's market. There's a ton of jobs out there. There's a ton. I see it. I work with the employers. The challenge is, how do I get that beautiful, amazing job offer for a job, for a career that I want? And that takes a little bit more time. But I know that everybody can do it because I've watched all the job seekers that we work with. So, I mean, that's what I believe. That's what I've noticed. My observation.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point in terms of really reflecting the needs that employers are really looking for. It really is important that you understand what employers are looking for and how you can really meet and reflect those needs. So I think those are important points that you just mentioned. So it looks like we have a little bit of time for a couple of questions. So I'm just going to throw a few questions out to you guys, and you can answer them. So first question is there a website that outlines licensed careers in Canada?
Any one website?
Like working in Canada?
Working in Canada is every position possible, including the licensed ones. So I would direct people to that one for sure.
Wes?
Yeah.
Does Wes? I'm assuming that because that's what you do.
In terms of licensed career, there's actually, we can go to CICIC.ca. That would be a great resource that some people can kind of connect to. Another question specific to your services, actually, you can access JVS Toronto and Access Employment Services. Is it, permanent resident, temporary worker, temporary work permit?
So our newcomer program, you have to be a permanent resident.
Yeah.
A permanent resident.
Yeah.
And depending on the program that you're looking for, a certain level of English, Canadian language benchmark. So you go to LINC, you get to a certain level, I guess 5, 6, and then you move into an occupational specific employment and language and communication program, and then hopefully you keep improving your English as well and do the coffees, the cafes.
And is that the same qualifications for your pre-arrival services as well?
That's a really good question. Okay, so our pre-arrival is for people, job seekers who are in their home country and they have been approved for immigrant visas to Canada, and they want to start their job search before coming to Canada.
All right.
You know what? When in doubt, you can email me, and then I'll connect to the right person as well if you want. I mean, I'm just saying if you want. I don't know if you want to do that, but
yeah. And Access is very similar. Again, we want the permanent residence for status for most of our bridging programs. You do have to do your Canadian language benchmark. And depending on the program, the levels vary. But yeah, and look at our website because we have sector-specific bridging programs.
Those are good ones.
And they're all reputable. They're all good. And 83% success rate across all of our bridging programs. So they're really worth taking a look at.
All right. And one last question: how can people start to emphasize their transferable skills?
In what? In the resume?
Yeah, in the resume, or through interviewing skills, or through networking even.
Okay, so this is what I think. Okay. I think, I'm going to go back to the self-assessment slide. It's very important that you learn the language used here in Canada to articulate your experience, your qualifications, and your skills. Notice I didn't say education. When you learn the language about, and then being able to articulate that in talking to people, and you can practice with people in your home country, your friends, you can practice on the CAN Prep, you can practice on Skype. When you are able to do that, then you can kind of translate your transferable skills into a concrete action so that you can express it clearly and communicate it clearly to a potential employer or mentor or to a lead or to anybody. I think so the transferable skills, I don't really understand it that much other than I think you're talking about your areas of expertise, your accomplishments, what you know how to do, what you need to learn how to do, what you're missing, what you have, your strengths, your weaknesses, your limitations.
All right. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions for today. So thank you guys for answering those questions for our audience. And now, just to summarize what we discussed today, so we talked about accessing services and engaging in career planning to help you assess your skills, develop a career plan, engage in research, and accessing programs and services in your career in Canada. We also explored personal branding and marketing, ensuring you use the right tools and approach to essentially market yourself effectively to employers. And finally, we discussed employer expectations, the qualities they value, including language proficiency, soft skills, and Canadian experience. And Deirdre, can you briefly mention some of these websites that you have connected us to?
So that's Working in Canada, and that's a database put out by the Canadian government of all jobs across the country, typical salaries. There's an actual job search board there as well, and it'll show you how much that job is in demand in that area. And they also tell you about upcoming events. So like if they're going to be opening a new hospital and you're looking for work as a medical administrator, they'll tell you about the hospitals opening up, that kind of thing, so it's great. There's 10,000 Coffees, that's connecting with people in any sector of interest to build your network. Talk English Cafe, that's a free online English training with a certified instructor, and I've given you the web access for Access Employment, and because we've got a new website launching soon, so you'll be able to find a page for it there. Toronto District School Board has great English language programming. And then I mentioned Toronto Workforce Innovation Group, TWIG, that's for detailed labor market info. And then Volunteer Toronto. If you're coming to Toronto, again, volunteering is a great way to learn the lingo of your sector, get references, build your network, and that's a searchable database for volunteer positions in the city.
And to receive more information on helping you in your career, please visit the Global Talent Bridge website at west.org/ca/GTB for information about the programs and services that our partners from JVS Toronto and Access Employment offer. Please visit their websites at www.jvstoronto.org and www.accessemployment.ca. And so I would like to thank Joanna Samuels and Deirdre Millen for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
And for providing us with the valuable information that will really help you to be successful while exploring your career in Canada. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.